So when we're thinking about this from a more expanded standpoint of journey mapping, when we're asking that question of what am I optimizing for, we're not only optimizing for our internal journey, but also for that client's process and journey. So if we take that approach, might start a lot farther back in the process around how do we generate new leads. So that can go far back as maybe SEO optimization on our side for the fact that we want them to we want to be able to capture somebody who is typing in a keyword who we might be able to address for them. And they might not know what the words are, right? Maybe something like, how do I protect my kids if I pass away versus like, how do I make a guardianship or something, right? So we would want to think about their journey and they don't know the terminology and how can we bring them into our environment where we might be able to help them. They are engaging or consuming things like blog posts, video content, or otherwise. And we on the other side are creating that. So maybe there are tools that can help us to automate the process of understanding which keywords to optimize, sponsored ads, doing creation of marketing content. Maybe we can use AI tools to help us create blog posts. Maybe we can use Gavel to create a lead magnet that helps to not only bring in and intake client information, but also qualify them as a lead at the same time and collect that data to be repurposed later. So we can kind of think about this in terms of not only from client versus our internal journey, but also the entire process of somebody's journey with us from point A to point Z and rather than from point A to point B. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense from that perspective of just expanding what we're thinking about when we're thinking about a user's journey with us as a firm. So the other thing I wanted to kind of go through is, this idea of when we think about the user's journey and our own journey, we want to think about that very early in the process of collecting information about the client, because that information can be reused or repurposed in lots of different documents and processes from there onward. So that's going to be around the second piece on data repurposing. The question being, can I reuse data I already have? So think about this from that perspective of letting information flow from one data source to another, so that we're able to really maximize the time that we're spending instead of having it be that like data entry when we have already collected that information in the past. So that can be through things like integrations, which I'll show you a quick example of, or that initial point of contact being a Gavel workflow so that that can automatically be pushed into another workflow. So essentially, this is going to be the example of that journey mapping plus data repurposing. So let's say that we are experts in US veteran law, and we've created a process where we've optimized our blogs for SEO purposes. And so when somebody searches for help with grants from the government, when you're a disabled veteran, they would land on our website over a competitor's website, for example. And in this particular one, we're talking about a grant that allows somebody to get up to $117,000 to adapt their home to accommodate for their disability. And what we're doing with this is not only bringing them from, Google into our world and environment, but we're also going to be qualifying them as a lead at the same time. So in this case, this is a Gavel workflow that's embedded onto a website built with a tool called Softer. And what we're going to be doing is, let's say that somebody says none of the above to the question, do you have one of the following service-connected disabilities? Then they can put in their name and email and whatever else, their address here as well. Then what's going to happen is they're actually going to be kicked out of this workflow and given the answer that they're likely not eligible to apply for this type of grant. The reason being that this has 3 conditions that must be met in order for this person to qualify. They need to have a service-connected disability. They need to be using the grant money to buy, build, or change their permanent home. And they need to own or will own the home. Now, if they don't meet any one of those conditions, they're not eligible. So we're giving them a document that says, or a letter that says, based on your answers, you may not be eligible because you need to have one of these in order to qualify. You indicated that you don't have any. Now, if somebody instead answers that they do have a service-connected disability, really any of these is fine because all of them qualify you, then they're going to see a different screen here. Now they see more questions. And the reason for this is they answered that they have one of the conditions and we need to confirm two more. So we're filtering people through this funnel by using a Gavel workflow to not only collect their information and bring them to our website to begin with, but also I'll show you in a minute that we're collecting data that can be repurposed after we engage them as a client. But we're also not allowing people through to give them our link or like to talk to us if they likely are somebody that we can't work with. So you can imagine this in different contexts. It doesn't have to be obviously just this VA specific example. Maybe if you want to, I know somebody who has like a 60-second Medicaid quiz. See if your parents are maximizing all that they have for Medicaid benefits or something like that. And then they answer like 5 questions where, based on their answers, we'll know, we as a firm, what they need. And the person is thinking that they're just doing like this quiz and it's like a fun thing to see, immediately where they might have potential to do something more, but we're also seeing who's a really good candidate for us to work with and what they might need and how we can structure that initial consultation based on their answers. So here, if they say no to, will you be using the grant money to buy, build, or change your permanent home, then they don't see the next question because it doesn't matter what they answer to this question because they've already said no to one condition. So in that case, they'll still get kicked out from the sense of we're saying that they may not be eligible, but it's going to be for a different reason. So you're seeing logic not only be applied within the workflow itself, but we're also going to see that the logic is being applied within the document itself. So now we don't see those bullet points anymore. We see now you may not be eligible, but it's because you need to be using the grant money for these reasons. So there might be other grants that you might be, able to apply for, but probably not this one. And then finally, if we say that we have loss of use of a lower leg, and then we say yes and yes, we're going to see that we likely are going to be eligible and we're going to have a different call to action for this person, right? Which is going to be, we'd love to work with you. Here's how to get in touch with us. So now we see, based on your answers, you may be eligible. We'd love to meet with you. You can book your time with us here. So that's how we can think about the user journey process of moving somebody from kind of the context of the whole world to our world of our website, to interacting with us, learning from us, understanding that we have expertise in this realm, and then becoming engaged as a client with us. So when you have a Gavel account, it looks like this. And remember I was saying there were 3 things that were happening in that one workflow. The first being that we were attracting people to our website and using that interactive, find out if you might be eligible right away tool as a lead generation tool. We're also using it for lead qualification so that we can only filter through people who might be a good candidate to work with us. And the third thing we're doing is intaking their client information in our data manager, which is a section where you can see all of the past times that a particular workflow has been run. So for example, I can see that this particular one has been completed 98 times because I use it all the time. And I can take that information from this session that's already been entered that would be able to be reused in another workflow, such as an engagement agreement, and push that information through so that I don't have to ever retype information that I already have. That's that concept of data repurposing. And so that we can actually be more consistent with not having any errors of spelling, typing, and then also that we're able to push through with that information we already have. So in this case, I have pushed through Mary's information here. And I only have to fill in information that I don't already have, right, from that first workflow. What we're going to be doing for them in this engagement, maybe how much it would be, unless that was already entered somewhere else. And then this is a repeating item where you can add as many or as little as you need. And then we can go through, and because of integration, I can submit this for DocuSign signature, but I can review this first in either a doc version or a PDF. So I can see that Mary's information, email in lots of different formats is pushed through, as well as the title of the matter, the date has automatically pushed through. Also, I've been able to format this easily and seamlessly so it doesn't look like it's been automated. It just looks like it's been prepared professionally. So that's the idea of data repurposing. And we've also seen through that example conditional logic of this question of what does it hinge on? And like this kind of if this, then that logic. We saw instances of page logic within the workflow itself. We've seen instances of question logic where on that second home information page, the second question only showed if the first question was answered yes. And we even saw a quick example of repeating items, but I want you to consider also that the logic was able to exist both in the workflow and within the documents. And then finally, for my section, I want to go over repeating items. So for repeating items, we saw that a little bit, but I also wanted to quickly show you one other example. Before I do, I just wanted to point out this piece around for data repurposing, the idea that you're also able to pull from a different data source in Gavel. So let's say that you are a solo or small firm and you use a legal practice management tool like the Clio or MyCase or Practice Panther or any Locus, Leadly, so many millions of them. Then what you can do in the Clio case is just go to integrations, and all you need to do is sign into your account right here. And then you're going to have your ability to pull information about contacts and matters and associated contacts into your Gavel workflows. So what that could look like is this example where if I run this power of attorney workflow, I can just search for my matter here, and then I can say continue. And that's going to pull in all of that contacts information around Olivia. And then I can also see the agent that she's designated already here and all of her information, which is Bella, and her address here has pulled into the system here. That way I can only answer the questions that I don't have stored in there, such as what does she want the agent's powers to be? And then also whether she wants this to continue if she becomes incapacitated, and whether she wants to list any additional special instructions. So this is how we can very quickly generate these types of documents, review them, and then get them sent off for notarization and signature. We can see that we've got her information here. And actually what's happening in the background of this document is there are a lot of different pieces of logic at play here. So this is what the regular template looks like. And you can see that what's happening right now is obviously if there was more than one designated agent, we'd see all of their information on this line. We'd also see the S in agents here and attorneys in fact. And also here, if all of the powers want to be designated, we'd only need one initial here. Otherwise, these should all be blank and only this one filled out. We can see that there's special instructions around whether she wants this to continue if she becomes incapacitated. But what's not here is an entire section about exercising of power of attorney where there's more than one agent designated, because this is only going to show if there's more than one designated and how they should act jointly or separately. So all of that's happening in the background, but all you needed to do in order to initiate those rules was to answer those few questions. So that's a lot easier than kind of going through, maybe forgetting to delete some other client's information or leaving in a section that didn't need to be there. These rules are the ones that you've set up in advance. And so you don't have to worry about inconsistencies or unpredictability because you've set those rules up beforehand. There was one more thing I was going to show you, which is around the repeating item piece. So the repeating item piece is going to be around the ability to ask a question to either show the repeating item or not, where repeating items are that, kind of thing where somebody might have 0 children or somebody might have 5 children. I heard someone today had 9 children. So there's lots of different variations between like matter to matter or person to person. So we want to be able to capture that information for anyone who might be in a different situation. So we can use repeating items for this. And I wanted to show you one good example of how this might be used in like a probate example. So if we had a receipt of distribution and we needed to be able to prepare that for more than one person who's receiving a distribution, then we can do that very easily and have that run through and create separate documents for each of those people who were designated. So we can answer information about the decedent and the case in the court, and then the heir information. We could say something like, Barry, Nicole, we'll do something simple like Nicole Scott, only $1,000 for you. And then let's do me. I want some. I'm going to be an heir here. I'm going to get the most. I want 5,000. Whatever the case may be, you just type in their name and their particular amount of distribution. You could even have like nested repeating items, which is the case where, for example, let's say we were asking about like the children's information. And then what if we wanted information about those children's children? You could even get to that level as well. And then use that information in different places too within your documents. And you can see that it's automatically separated out all of these different people's receipts for distribution. And so they have like their specific information. Nicole, I love you so much. Yes. And so you can see how easy that is. Here's $1,000 cash, and it's, you can break it up into words, into different formats. So I just feel like that's really useful because there was an example from Decision Vault where the part of the reason why another company called Decision Vault was created is because the founder's wife is an estate planning attorney, and she had a case where there were 35 like people beneficiaries, and she was like, I cannot deal with this. So they actually have an integration with Gavel too. So you can reuse information collected in those client portals into Gavel repeating items like this as well. So you don't have to worry about that, which is really cool to see. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and give Anja a second to share some stuff around document tagging and customization, productization, and so on.
Perfect. So I just wanted to cover basically my own process of document tagging. And one of the most important things for me when I start tagging documents from clients is having the clients prepare the document properly. So that's always a tip that I always give out to clients too, in terms of how much it helps to have the document properly standardized, templated, and tagged before starting to go tag in Gavel. And it's also going to be so helpful if you decide to use tools like Blueprint AI, if your document is already properly tagged, to go ahead and just be able to work it with it. I do have a checklist for document tagging that I'm going to share in the chat maybe at the end of the session. But basically my whole process with document tagging on Word is a little bit different. It's a little bit different based on the type of document I'm working with, obviously. So on Word, it's going to be a little different than the PDF tagger. For those of you who have tried Blueprint, if you're using a Word document, a more simple Word document, I think Blueprint is really going to help you get a good first draft in terms of automating. And then you can go ahead and go review the tagging of your document once you have like a first base with the Blueprint. So what I do when I'm in Word is basically inserting my variables and ensuring that I have proper formatting in the variables. So with the word adding, it's pretty easy to just insert my variables and insert the formatting. But I just want to make sure in my output documents, everything is formatted as I would want it. So I put my uppercase, lowercase, I put my custom formatting for numbers. So if I want something to be formatted as a currency, if I want a social security number to be with hyphens, if I want the mobile phone numbers to be with hyphens, I'm also going to go ahead and format the dates properly. So that's what I'm going to pay an extra attention to when I'm going to be tagging. Then the next step is I'm going to be inserting my conditions. So I'm going to be tagging my conditions inside of my documents. I put a little extra warning to review the spacing, because with conditionals, when you insert conditions, sometimes it's going to add extra spacing in your document, or it's going to add like some odd spacing between the different sentences or the different paragraphs. So you need to be careful about which option you use, and you need to be careful about not adding extra spaces that you don't want in your document. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert my repeating items. And once I'm done with all of that, I can add like some additional custom syntax. I can add my signature fields. I can add my calculations if I want to. And I'm going to go and check for errors in the word adding, just to make sure that everything is tagged properly. And especially if you use custom syntax, you want to make sure everything is properly tagged too. I do have an example of a document here. This is actually a simple will that you can access in one of the Gavel no setup forms. So it's the will template that we have in there. I'm not going to go ahead and demonstrate all the tagging, but I just want to show how like some of the tags here are formatted. So we have the client names in uppercase. We're going to see the conditions in colors. So we just have like an extra attention to not have any extra spacing in between the conditions. If I choose to use paragraph conditions, I also pay an attention to not have extra spacing. And this one is a pretty complex document, but I'm going to go ahead and show here some of the repeating items tagging. So here we add repeating items and we add conditions on which repeating items are being listed. So here we have like each child that is alive is being listed here in that document. So that's what the final document tagging would kind of look like once I'm going to go ahead and finish all that process I just showed you. Then back here. When it comes to tagging PDFs, it's going to be a little different. I typically always use the Gavel blueprint now for PDFs because it's so much easier. It's going to automatically detect my fields and it's automatically going to let me it's going to tag every one of my fields in advance. So I can just go ahead and just do a quick review at the end, and it's pretty much straightforward. The tagging is a little bit different on PDFs because it's not like you insert variables. You can tag regular variables, you can insert text, or you can insert conditional values. And then the tagging of repeating items is also a tiny bit different because you can automatically select which item you're gonna put in that specific field. So it's a little bit different than the Word add-in. And one more thing for PDFs, when I typically review what I'm doing on Blueprint, is that I'm going to add some custom syntax when I want to format sometimes. So if you want to have something show in uppercase, then you're going to use the same syntax basically that you have on the Word add-in, but you're just going to adapt it so that it works for the PDFs. So that's basically my process for document tagging. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions on your process of document tagging. I wanted to touch a little bit too on customization, just because, so when you build either internal facing or client facing, you kind of want to have a look and feel that looks like the other tools that you use, because if you want to have the rest of your team use that or your client use it, you kind of want to make it seem like it's seamless and it's part of your own web page or website experience. So first thing first, on Gavel, you can use you can add your own logo, or you can use a custom domain, or you can embed your Gavel intake inside of your actual website. So it's just very seamless. But I also wanted to demo here the Gavel custom CSS, which was built by one of the other Gavel experts, Ash. I've worked with Ash a couple of times, so it's been really fun too. But using the custom CSS allows me to basically make the look and feel of my Gavel workflow the same as my client's website or their internal tool, so that anyone who's using the tool doesn't feel like they're going on a different platform. They're not going on Gavel, they're just on the same platform, especially when we embed. So that's kind of my demo here of how the custom CSS works. You can basically change pretty much all of the elements of the interface on Gavel. You can change your buttons, you can change your fonts, you can change your colors. So typically I have my clients send me their kind of branding package. So I ask them to send me their fonts, their color, the styles, or the logo that they want, and we kind of adapt it from there. Just wanted to show one example from one client mandate that we worked on. So this is the before. This is basically the Gavel basic CSS. And here, this is the after. So this is fully embedded in one of the internal website that the client has, but every one of the colors here has been matched to. So we don't feel like we are on Gavel here, but we are on Gavel. So then the last portion of the Gavel 7, when it comes to productization, I kind of identify like the three main features that I use on Gavel that help most of the clients with productization. So the first thing would be Gavel bundles, because it obviously allows you to easily package any one of your workflows and wrap them like an app that you're going to make a client pay for. So it's a way to create it's an easy way to create an app and have passive income for your firm if you're able to productize one of your service offers. Then Gavel Bundles comes with Stripe integrations, which is really helpful as well because you can collect payments directly from that. You don't have to organize an external integration or another way to collect the client's payments, which makes the client's journey very smooth from there. They just go on there, they pay for the app, and they're able to go through the intake and generate their own documents. And another tool that's pretty popular too when productizing would be the Gavel client portal, just because a lot of clients of law firms would want their client to be able to access a portal where they can see their own data, where they can continue their own session, and when they can basically reuse their own data. So if I have one client who used, for example, one app for my will generator, and later on they want to modify that will, or they want to do something else, then they can basically just have the data consistency and push their same data over and over again throughout all my workflows rather than having to re-enter their names, their mobile phone numbers, etc. It's just a lot more efficient when you're productizing to have that Gavel client portal function. So here I shared another little example of another mandate we worked on for another client. So basically, they're a law firm and they want to have that way to basically just have clients from the public just generate very simple wills. So their offer would be clients would come to see us when they have custom estate planning, when they have more complex questions, when they have more custom wills. But some clients have very straightforward needs when it comes to estate planning, and we want to have that kind of consumer product for them. So it basically looks like this. This app has been built on Software, which is another no-code tool. But then once they are ready to generate their will, they are redirected. Are you able to still see this specific screen? Yeah. They're redirected into the Gavel workflow, and then they're able to go ahead and answer all the questions relating to the generation of a will. It's going to generate a will at the very end of it, and it's going to push that will back into their app that they have on Software, which makes it easy for their client to be able to view all of their will information and edit stuff based on how stuff goes in their estate planning. So if they want to change, for example, the guardians and want to reassign something or rename basically some of their fiduciaries, they can do so automatically in the Easy Will app that they have on Software, and it's going to regenerate the document through Gavel. So that's pretty much it for me. I think, Brittany, you wanted to touch base a little bit on other apps that were built on Gavel.
Yes, thank you so much. That was a great example too, to see how people are doing different things. I think it's just good to get some ideas from what different people are doing. So essentially what I wanted to do here was point out a few things around, one, that these are happening in lots of different practice areas, but two, that these were different initiatives by lawyers who have their own firms. Maybe they're solos, maybe they have a bigger firm, but they've also started separate legal tech companies where they offer these client-facing workflows. And actually, like, our mission as a company is obviously to help lawyers to automate their practices, but the real goal behind that is to make access to the law universal, doing that by helping the people who supply legal services, namely lawyers, to provide them with the tools to do that, right? To make things more affordable for people while at the same time allowing lawyers to scale their practices or their businesses, because I know I still have some school debt too to pay off. So I can't be offering services for free, but maybe there's a way that I can offer it at a reduced rate, but have more customers that can afford that rate. So that's a big thing that Hello Divorce has done, which is around family law and DIY divorces, where the actual consumer can spend $400 on a plan that allows them to complete their forms in just a few minutes, built on Gavel. We have DOS Docs, which is more of a marketplace style. Counsel Your Docs is a good example I can show you as well of lots of shareholder agreements, but the reason is it kind of ties into a couple of things that Anja mentioned around bundles, as well as like embedding in your site and Stripe payments. So cancel your docs, a bundle that you embed looks like this. So somebody could just say buy now, and then they just create a quick account on that subdomain so that they can have it assigned to their client portal, which I'll show you what that looks like. And then once my internet loads, you'll see what the Stripe portal looks like when they pay before they go into creating the account. I'll show you what it looks like when you're signed in. You have a bundle that looks like this. So I say start session, and then I can start as the consumer. This is what the client portal that Anja was saying would look like for somebody who's done other things with us too. They're our client. And then they can go through. And the reason why we're at this screen is because what Anja mentioned as well is they've already completed some of this information before. So all they have to do is edit their answer if they wanted to change anything. And when they're ready, because we've already collected information about their name and their address and their email and their phone number and whatever else, and we're just needing to collect payment now. So what that would look like is this, where they have a Stripe portal like this, they pay, and then they generate that document. So you can either have this be at the beginning of the workflow, and then at this stage too, this is before documents are generated. So you get to choose what that looks like. So I thought that would be kind of interesting to show you as well. The other one I was going to show you is trustee, because I mentioned guardianships before. And so this is an example of a lawyer who actually she actually made this when she was a law student, and she took the bar recently, and so she's waiting for her results. But she created a guardianship offering where the good thing about this is to show you she kind of started from her own pain point, which was that she was a new mom and she knew that she needed to do this for herself as well. She realized that it was really hard to go through all of the journey that I showed you in the beginning of, booking a time with a lawyer, trying to find the right attorney, blah, blah, blah. And that it might be easier for someone to be able to just do this on their own on their phone for an affordable rate. The other thing that's important to point out here too is that she started with a single tool and product that was not that complicated to build out. So she was able to start somewhere small. And then if she wanted to build this out to be something larger, like a Hello Divorce is quite large in its offerings to lots of different jurisdictions and under lots of different tiers and all of that, you can just start with one thing. And then from there, build on top of that. And also you're testing the market as well in the meantime. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll pass it back over to Anja to go over kind of her unique selling position and expertise.
For some clients, it's more of a exhaustive process of like addressing all the bottlenecks or the pain points of their practice. And it's usually like step by step. First, they are interested in document automation, and then after that's like checked, they know that the sky is the limit. So they want to go ahead and automate and be more efficient in other areas. So we automate internal operations and their processes. So basically we look at their whole journey and we try to automate some end-to-end journeys, basically. The advantage with that, we kind of try to work with what the client already uses as tools. So if I know that the client already uses Clio, then I know that I can start using Clio and integrate that with Gavel. And the third thing would be building full B2C legal applications, just like the one I just showed you, which is like a legal will document automation generator for public facing or for consumer facing. So that's pretty much what I do.
So you mentioned Clio. But I know that Brittany also mentioned the program that I happen to use, which is Practice Panther.
Clients have their own tools. We just go ahead and go look at their integrations, and we can look at what can be done through Zapier. I typically do work with one of the other Gavel developers with integrations, Abhishek, who has built a lot of integrations for me and other clients. For example, I had a client who was using HelloSign, and Gavel has DocuSign. So that client still wanted to keep using HelloSign. So we created a full custom integration to send stuff back into HelloSign. Same for HubSpot. So I have a couple of clients who use HubSpot or Salesforce rather than Clio. So we need a way to efficiently send the data in. So we either use Zapier or we use a custom integration. So it's going to depend on the capabilities on that end.
Yeah, but that's a great question, Nicole. Chris, do you have any questions for us as well? I want to make sure that whenever you're here, you get VIP treatment.
I wouldn't be able to support my family. And so I did the regular lawyer stuff my whole career. I'm at the end of my career now looking finally the tools have gotten to the point where I thought it should be, 35 years ago. So just trying to figure out, what makes sense for me to do, and which tool. I mean, Gavel obviously has great capabilities, and I'm very interested. For me, the hook is for Gavel is the integration with Stripe, because it's taking it all the way from service to paying in one place is going to make a difference. The other thing that I'm very interested in is a quasi access to justice. When I say that, I mean, I think that the government is very focused on people who are absolutely impoverished and really can't help themselves, but there's this massive and growing gap of individuals who are smart enough to know that they've done the research, they know what they don't know, and they really need somebody to walk them through it. And so these kind of single apps, or one trick apps, I think are the way to go.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And I'm always here. Anja's always here too. Feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, the purpose of this PJ Power Hour was to make it feel a little less formal, a little bit more like intimate in the fact that we're able to talk to each other instead of me doing a presentation and then you leave and you never got to ask your questions or never got to talk. So please do feel free to reach out to me or to Anja, and we will be sure to get back to you. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Anja.
Bye-bye.
Bye.